We may grow up, but our childhood dreams remain with us whatever our age. Deep in the forest of Sumatra, in Indonesia, a man has made his dream come true. Not for fun, but out of necessity. Handling this vehicle is not for everyone.
Ini tiap hari dipakai. Udah lama, udah berapa puluh tahun ya. Sejarahnya, yang jelas sejarah ini dari nenek moyang dulu, dari Belanda dulu.
The original locomotives have disappeared, eaten away by time and humidity. The rails, on the other hand, have survived. Well, that might be an overstatement. The whole line is in a pitiful state, but it doesn't matter. You've got to make a living after all. So Masinis and others came up with the idea of building these motorized wagons to reactivate the line.
Molek ini aku yang bikin sendiri, cuman ya kita beli ini porselingnya, ini kita beli. Kalau rangkaian ini kita bikin dari mesin ke porseling, pakai papel. Porseling ini porseling Putura, mobil Putura. Mesin Cina, Myanmar. Nah, Myanmar itu Indonesia. Ya.
The engine is archaic but practical. It enables farmers to reach distant fields and transports goods to the only village it runs to, that of the gold miners. All this at 30 kilometers an hour. It's not fast, but fast enough considering the state of the tracks. Most of the rails are bent, so Masinis have solved the problem by installing a steering wheel.
Gampang, sangat gampang. Supir molek bisa bawa mobil, kalau supir mobil belum tentu bisa bawa molek. Paling gampang, asal jalan ini kita hafal jalan. Kalau nggak hafal, itu susah. Kuncinya hafal jalan, bisa bawa ini.
Indeed.
Rusak, tanah longsor, ambruk ke bawah tanahnya. Nah, karena waktu itu kan musim hujan, 2 hari 2 malam hujan.
The rails are propped up with a tree stump, and yet
Kan sempat terbalik molek bawah, jatuh, guling. Ini masih kecil ini. Ada yang lebih parah lagi di bawah di atas itu. Nanti aku ngomong tadi jembatan besar. Nah, itu enak pakai drone nanti itu.
a small but sturdy train, carrying the village folk regardless of the weather. Thankfully so, because its rickety rails are the only way to get around the region. The Indonesian archipelago is an immense territory made up of over 17,000 islands, Sumatra being one of the largest. It's home to hard-working people, and you know what they say, work hard, play hard.
Bahayanya banyak kali itu masalahnya penonton itu sangat ramai itu, ada sapinya yang liar gitu.
Sumatra's humid climate and fertile soils are its wealth, but they're also its worst enemy. Multinationals are tearing down the rainforest for the profitable palm oil business.
Apa jatuhnya nggak tahu, bisa kenain kepala. Nah, buah pun bisa.
Despite the region's enormous agricultural and mining resources, the population remains highly isolated. Some large towns are linked only by dirt roads. So in the monsoon season,
nyangkut. Batu.
The tribes don't seem to understand what all this fuss is about. The Mentawai are part of the last temple guardians. They fight for their home, and for us too.
Baraku kalau wakai kamatap, aneh kau kutohong. Baraku bagi mata kau, bagi mata kau foto. Tamo bahai. Kalulud dah wicate kakota kapadangnya.
During the monsoon season, the air is saturated with humidity, exceeding 90%. Come rain or shine, we're under a permanent shower, and engines are a bit like cats.
Oke. Ayo, ajar. Mundur, bos.
They don't like water.
Sekarang musim hujan, parah lagi. Airnya sampai sini.
While Rudi's minibus finally gets going again, his windscreen wipers clearly haven't recovered from the soaking yet. But not to worry, the cab driver reassures everyone.
Oh, masih bisa, soalnya masih bisa hujan. Masih terang kelihatan pula. Nah, habis mana? Sewa udah ada. Ini bawanya harus nyampe ke tempat. Nggak bisa kita oper. Soalnya mobil nggak ada lagi. Nah, terpaksa kita harus bawa. Mudah-mudahan kita cepat nyampe, nggak ada aja. Jalannya lumpur. Berlumpur jalannya. Nanti kita lihat aja nanti. Lumpurnya kayak bubur.
Simply put, it's strewn with thousands of potholes and ruts. The whole road covered with earthy jam. And that goes on for 80 kilometers. The 6 passengers each paid €3 for a ride in the ringer.
Walau wak kencang, 1.500 kali.
Ya nggak enak lah. Harusnya kayak jalan tol. Kayak gini mah sakit perut. Gelombang-gelombang.
Kalau begini jalannya, capek kali jalannya, capek badan. Sampai sana maunya diurut nanti ini. Woi.
And that's in a minibus run by a good mechanic.
Aduh, itu super sender matiin nama.
Ini menang menikmati jalan ini, udah sehari-harinya ke sini, Bang.
Kalau nggak senang apa lagi?
Ya.
Mana lagi?
Namanya cari duit buat anak istri ya kan?
That's €10 per trip, no matter how many hours or days he spends on the road. The same journey in the dry season takes him less than 3 hours, but 4 times as long in the monsoon season. Rudi still hopes to arrive before dark. But for that, he's going to need a bit more luck. Gigantic holes block his way, and there's only one way to get past them. By reducing the weight of the minibus.
Kami kan tahun bulan 10 hari itu kami nanam di sini kayak gini juga. Jadi ini pun ya udah 2 kali kan ke sini baru kayak gini.
It's been 15 years since the authorities promised to cement and asphalt the track, but they are nowhere to be seen.
Lumpur, dalam. Kita usahakan lewat ya. Inilah jalan kami, bos. Jalan Labura. Makanya pemerintah Labura tolong diperbaiki jalannya nih.
First, he relied on his talent. Then he hoped and prayed, all in vain. The mud pit keeps him prisoner. While mud may be a driver's nightmare, in Sumatra it's also life. Mud means rice, at least for the most daring. At the end of each harvest, when the rice paddies are left to rest, farmers like Maklanu and his children prepare their ploughing bulls for Pacu Jawi, the only race of its kind in the world.
Ini tradisi nih, Esi. Kalau kita nanti sudah nggak ada, anak yang meneruskan tradisi ini. Bapak saya dulu, seperti saya sama anak saya juga.
The two most beautiful animals in the family are prepared like top athletes. They're even put on a specific diet with a generous dose of protein and sugar.
Ya, yang dikerjakan ini adalah untuk pengobatan untuk sapi pergi lomba kan. Yang peralatannya ada jamu, ada telur, ada madu, ada air. Lebih semangat kalau tenaganya dikasih doping, terus semangatnya lebih tinggi. Ini air cabai ini.
Oh, this is chili.
Air cabai kita sudah bikin sambal kan. Nah, dibasuh.
This year, Maklanu intends to tattoo a new star on the back of his best bull. A victory would mean a lot to the whole family, in terms of glory, but above all in terms of money, as the offspring of Pacu Jawi winners sell for a fortune.
Mulai dibeli dulu 1.250.000, ya, 10.250.000. Sekarang sudah dijual 44.
But it's going to be a tough battle. The best animals in the region line up at the starting line.
Ini tempat kedalaman itu. Ini sawah. Dikasih pacuan, nih. Gayanya nggak terkilir, begitulah. Kadang ada juga sapinya yang patah.
The bulls are led by jockeys. They don't ride on their backs, but are pulled while standing up on wooden hoops called plows.
Ya udah, ya kita injak tuh bisa pisau namanya itu kan. Nah itu yang kita injak. Bicu kakinya. Begini.
Oh, begini
ya.
The most complicated thing for the jockeys is to keep the animals aligned. Otherwise, since they're not tied to each other, they can each go their own separate ways. The aim of the race is not to finish first, so most of the time the men race on their own. They are scored on their speed, style, and ability to avoid zigzagging. And it's a tough jury who awards the points.
Penonton lah, penonton yang memberi. Mana nak luru, mana tak luru, penonton yang punya. Tidak ada orang berjudi, tidak boleh. Ini Pacu Jawi beradat. Adat Minangkabau, Pacu Jawi nenek mama punya. Nak kateh Jawi itu ah. Nak kateh yo.
Bahayanya banyak kali itu. Itu masalahnya penonton itu sangat ramai itu. Ada sapinya yang liar gitu.
It would be surprising if the cows weren't upset. to make them speed up, the jockeys use an unexpected method. Maklanu and his son explain it to us as they prepare to race.
Yang ni, yang pakai serba hitam. Ya, karena kita giginya sudah nggak ada, susah jadi joki. Yang penting kan gini.
Bagaimana caranya digigit atau katanya bagaimana?
Ada yang digigit, ada yang enggak.
Kenapa harus digigit?
Supaya larinya nambah.
Maklanu's son is confident, but in the end, he won't get to tattoo another victory on his bull. Maybe he hit a bit too hard on the animal's tail. It all comes down to dosage, apparently. And here's the winner, with its powerful speed and perfectly straight line. Just the opposite of the railway line that leads to a mining village hidden in this forest. An indispensable lifeline, or rather a line of death, with so many dangerous crossings. The last mining company to operate on these rails closed its doors in the 1980s, and since then they haven't undergone maintenance except by a few brave locals who do their best to repair it. Without the rails, the gold miners would be cut off from the outside world.
Untuk ini cari emas. Ini alat manual untuk mencari emas. Menggunakan ini, nggak ada yang lain. Jelas Pak, sangat penting. Kalau nggak ini nggak makan orang Lampung Tandai. Karena bahan makan ini dari bawah sini semua. Maksimalnya 1,5 ton. Biasanya 1,5 ton, muatan orang penuh ke bawah juga. Kebalik, moleknya kebalik ke jurang pernah. Sampai saat ini molek kebalik itu belum aku dengar orang tuh ada yang patah, ada yang mati, belum pernah.
The Le Bong Tandai gold mine is 35 kilometers away. That's a 5-hour journey, when everything goes well, which hardly ever happens.
Menggoyang molek. Bayangkan ada selisih rel tadi. Nggak sinkron kan? Nah, kalau lurus ke ini harus geol kata kami itu. Nah, kalau bahasa ini ya digeser biar bisa masuk roda bawah.
To keep moving, one must be clever and extremely resourceful. In some places, the tracks have disappeared.
Jalan Pak, biar itu nggak jatuh, anjlok.
Jadi harus ditaruh ini dulu dia biar nggak anjlok?
Iya.
Bukan besi?
Bukan Pak, kayu.
It's unbelievable, but the wood holds the 800 kilograms of goods. Ironically, it's a warped rail that derails them. Not enough to discourage these extreme engineers.
Bahan tani ini, usaha bawa alat-alat ini, hasil kebun. Ya iyalah, melihat ponaan inilah yang bawa ke pengangkutan ini. Good.
Without Masinis and his motorized wagon, farmers would have to walk for hours through the forest with heavy loads on their backs. The driver is paid €10 per trip, a rate that far from matches up to the challenges with which he's constantly faced, especially seeing as the homemade engine breaks down constantly.
Ini kendor semua, Pak. Ah.
Jadi ini mau diapain ini?
Dikencangin bau outnya. Ini kendor semua. Ya, ini lari ke belakang rodanya.
Masinis has two rules that he never breaks. First, to keep his spirits up no matter what, because every problem has its solution, and secondly, to be brave. Otherwise, he'd have already scrapped his wagon. All the bridges he crosses are precariously balanced and have been eaten away by rust, but the mechanic believes in his lucky star.
Paling parah belum ada, cuman terbalik. Nah, orangnya nggak apa-apa, orangnya. Ini rumah-rumahnya hancur nih. Nah, kalau penumpang sama orang kan turun, tinggal kita sendirian dalam itu nggak apa-apa.
This is the bridge Masinis dreads the most. Guillaume, our director, is not very comfortable crossing it to get a shot from the front, and understandably so. This scrap heap, which never undergoes maintenance, is 150 meters long. A part of it has been washed away by a landslide and has been patched up with some very thin trunks.
Sangat penting bagi orang tandai kendaraan ini. Kalau nggak ada ini, kemarin udah libur, nggak naik 10 hari. Itu udah berjerit orang tandai itu. Beras naik, ada yang nggak makan, cabai mahal, minyak manis mahal. Pokoknya mati juga orang Lembang Tandai. Itu intinya.
He manages to get through once again. But how long until he doesn't? It took him 5 hours to complete the first part of the journey. The railway line stops here at kilometer 25, as a new landslide has swept away 300 meters of railway. Fortunately, a motorized wagon is waiting for them on the other side of the landslide. After all, they still have to move the goods. The poorest people in the region saw an opportunity to earn a little money. For €3 a day, men and women transform into pack horses.
Kerjaan ini, dekat tahun kita sini, cari makan sini lah. Ngerja lain, yang rumah pening, pala, mana sini kerja. Udah pulang.
Sudah 15.
Sudah 15.
Jadi gula balik 30. Yang sudah di bawah.
Sudah berapa kilo?
Hampir 1 ton.
The last 10 kilometers of the line are going to be complicated. The hours lost on the first part of the journey, along with the time it took to transfer the goods, pushed the driver of the second wagon to flirt with danger by driving at night. If it wasn't for the gold mine at the other end of the rails, no one would risk their life. Gold makes people do crazy things, but sadly, is not the only metal which pushes people to extremes. Indonesia abounds in precious metals, and each one represents a potential catastrophe. The residents of Bangka Island know a thing or two about this. Their island is slowly dying.
Kalau dulu sebelum ada penambangan ini, Pulau Bangka ini sangat bagus. Lubang-lubang belum ada. Kami itu masih menanam ubi, nanam sahang. Semenjak ada penambangan ini, pulau kita ini kayaknya udah hancur lah, udah nggak.
According to a local NGO, 3/4 of Bangka's surface area is mined, which corresponds to 1 million hectares. But what's so special about this mineral? Well, when mixed with lead, tin is used to weld the components of electronic devices. For our mobile phones, for instance, we need less than 2 grams. It may not sound like much, but multiplied by 1.5 billion, the number of smartphones sold on average each year, it's an incredible amount. And since more and more of it is needed, we've now moved on to plundering the sea. The contrast between the turquoise water and the wooden platform creates a post-apocalyptic image. Nature is the least of Hotley's and his business partners' concerns. The old fishermen see only one side of it. When the price of tin is high, they earn 300 euros in a day, which is what they used to earn in a month casting fishing nets. Talk about motivation.
Kali menyelam paling sekitar 3-4 jam. Dalam sehari 2-3 kali nyelam. Buat oksigen, buat kita nyelam. Ada kekhawatiran tuh, ada kadang-kadang tuh. Kadang-kadang kita ini kan kerja penuh resiko. Namanya di dalam air kita nggak tahu kan. Siapa tahu ada mesin rusak, lokasi dalam, itu kan.
The dive is not deep, between 5 and 10 meters. Hotley's hose is connected to a pump that brings up the sand, which is then lifted on the platform. Between land and sea, the reserves are shared by 100,000 miners. This inexhaustible workforce makes Indonesia the world's second largest producer behind China, exporting 80,000 tons of tin every year.
Nah, ini yang hitam timah, yang putih ini pasir nih Pak. Nih, ini yang kita cari selama kita kerja, yang hitam ini.
To sift it, miners use the same method as for gold. Tin is heavier than sand.
Ini karpet. Ini timahnya, timah. Kalau di posisi kayak ini nggak kelihatan dia.
Like on land, it's a massacre under the water. As the sand falls back into the water, it diffuses and covers the coral reefs, which eventually suffocate. A disrupted ecosystem endangers all the island's sea life. According to geological studies, in 10 years' time, the tin seams will be used up. That's far too long. It'll be too late to save Bangka Island. In Indonesia, the mines work at full steam, yet the infrastructure is still in a sorry state in most regions. By the way, on the road leading to the town of Labura, Rudi and his cab are still at the bottom of the hole. But Rudi is lucky. A bus from his company arrives just in time to give him a hand.
Okay, good. Good job. Depan jalan kaki tadi. Aku hadir juga. Mungkin di situ dia berhenti ya.
Well, they are, and they've walked quite a bit. 5 kilometers before finding shelter on this storefront. Everyone's worried about the rest of the journey.
Masih jauh. Berapa jauh lagi nih? Sampai sampai jam 11 nanti, jam 11 malam. Makin lama ini ya? Iya.
It's 4 p.m. and since their early morning departure, they've only covered half the distance, 40 kilometers. The 2 buses are now traveling in convoy to reduce the risk of getting bogged down.
Jalannya susah nggak?
Susah. Itu dari pura itu ditarik.
Once again, the men have to get their hands and feet into the mud.
Emang harus begitu, harus tolong menolong. Kalau enggak bisa lewat kita. Ya biar bisa kita lewat dari belakang. Kalau enggak di sini mana bisa kita lewat. Tiga jam lagi nih, 4 jam. Aduh.
Rudi is very optimistic, especially as the truck traffic intensifies at the end of the day. They go around the palm farms to collect the fruit the factories refine into palm oil.
Buktinya kan itu ada truk komersial, ada juga busuk. Benarnya bukan halnya karena truk sawit itu. Kan ada kadang-kadang mobil yang besar itu yang membuat hancur. Kedua, jalan kita sebenarnya ini mungkin per hari itu ratusan ton keluar, 300 ton pun ada per hari.
In fact, Indonesia is the world's leading palm oil producer. It's an unsavory first place on the podium since the country has one of the highest deforestation rates on the planet. 80% of the rainforest has disappeared to make way for palm tree plantations. Ardil is among the 17 million people who make their living off palm oil. Harvesting takes place all year round, and the fruit grows rapidly, between 8 and 12 days. The job is exhausting, and mechanized harvesting is too expensive. The most economical method is still manual labor. A cluster of nuts weighs up to 15 kilograms.
Dibilang bahaya resikonya banyak nian. Kalau belum punya teori, lepah jatuhnya nggak tahu, bisa kenain kepala. Buah pun bisa. Tergantung tonnya. Kalau tonnya banyak ya banyak. Ibaratnya kalau satu hari 4 ton kali 200. Berarti kan 400. Dibagi orang 4 kan 100-an. Sehari 100.
Ardil and his associates work 10 hours a day, 7 days a week.
Tergantung keajaiban dunia, Tuhan lah kalau mau ngasih. Mungkin nasib kita lebih baik ya mungkin nggak lagi. Apalagi kalau udah faktor umur 60 tahun, 70 tahun nggak bisa mungkin manen lagi, nggak bisa.
Farmers aren't the only ones wondering about their future. The disappearance of the forest is endangering the thousands of men and women who live there and make a living from it.
Kalulod dede tukut busa soa siburu pele kapunu teteu bulan niale kudnia nane usingit kaleleo. Kana takadiu anene moi tamoi makere soa. Kalulod kana tu kaleleo kautan mapali tayai anai jinna aku tu tanggung jawab. Tapoi takau izin tanane singinta Sari kalau masa mana sini ni, atau Italia sebelah. Dah kisah kasihan anu.
Aman Lau Lau is Mentawai. He and his tribe still live as their ancestors did. The forest means everything to them. It feeds them and heals them. The old chief knows the healing properties and powers of every plant. And there are quite a few of them. Of the 40,000 species of medicinal plants in the world, 30,000 grow in Indonesia. And this gift of nature is now threatened.
Anai takaleleu baris temerot. Ya pe gabala gekara. Anai yate anai kekini anane. Atau anai takaleleu anai takamonga ya pe gabala gekara ikut cida. Makanya kalau lalu lepas kau mai kalau ta bu sembarangan nanai makai kainan. Anak sini satu kuat. Karena tu mata tahu ya kisi kaparak tak baik terus kapat terus sini satu kuat. Tu magila ita. Kau kalau wakil mata, tapi tu kalau wakil saya itu boleh. Baraku kau kesampuran niya ilagay gliti jene ane makasakte ilagay silokat gulo sikole sikoman ane bara oni niya lagi cirpuso dulu niya ilagay karena sabe mo pe ilawan na desa koboy hi mo ilawan na desa.
Modern food doesn't really suit them. The Mentawi love the pulp of a palm tree, the sago tree. You'd better not be very hungry, as it takes a little while to prepare.
Makeredera kasi matawo yate sago kapmay senig gogo yate pokkay. Kay gogo, kat China, kat Sirimanua, ele kuala kay sinanalek tato kamay, nakira na ni kau matatsago.
Sago has virtually no nutritional value, no protein, no vitamins, no minerals. It's most of all an excellent appetite suppressant. The whole clan lives in a huma, that is, a common house. Fishing and hunting are divided equally between each family. In the 1950s, the state tried to move them out of the forest and force them to adapt to modern life. Today, this program has been abandoned. But many Mentawai no longer know how to live off the forest.
Sagu.
Aman Lau Lau's clan escaped, but the old chief lives in fear.
Baraku kalau wakil kamatap, aneh kau kutu om. Baraku bagi mata kau, bagi mata kau oto, baik kiri kue kau, oto, ala kila buka kan, makanya aku kubenya kayak kau.
Tamo bahay. Kalulud na kuitsate kakota kapadangnya.
Indigenous communities account for between 50 and 70 million people, or 25% of the Indonesian population. As for their ancestral forest territory, it covers over 40 million hectares, which makes up almost half of the main forest. The future of Indonesia's green lung, so precious for the plant, may well lie in their hands. But for the Mentawai, as for other tribes, the battle against the forest enterprises is far from over. As night falls, someone else is fighting a hard battle. Ahmad tries his very best to keep his motorized wagon on the rails, which exist mostly in name.
Jalan tu lah paling Pak. Jalannya yang rusak. Tuh. Ya, keluar rel. Keluar jalur.
And indeed,
Lepas dari rel roda.
they've got 10 kilometers left to cover before arriving at the mine, and they're not even close to sorting it out. At this spot, they'll have to patch up 15 meters of rail.
Sudah lepas rel Pak, itu kan udah lepas tuh sambungan itu. Jadi sementara dipasang rel yang kecil gitu.
Provisional, that's the problem. Nothing is really ever repaired. Only their willpower and courage keep them going. On the road to the town of Labura, Rudi and his passengers don't escape nighttime either. Everyone is exhausted. Having set off early in the morning, they've covered 65 kilometers with great difficulty and must cover another 20. And as with the mine train, their ordeal is not over. The passengers must use their muscles at every kilometer. Rudi stops again, but this time not because of a rut, it's worse.
Nah, itu tadi yang jatuh, mobil yang itu jatuh. Terusnya kita sekarang tunggu kawan-kawan. Mudah-mudahan bisa lewat kami ya.
It's not really the overturned truck that's blocking the way, but the driver and his mechanics. Thousands of palm nuts litter the ground. If they don't pick them up, the driver and his crew will have to pay for them. Another truck has come to pick up the stock, but Rudi and the drivers don't dare go around it. To do so, they'd have to drive through a pool of mud. Some take a chance without success.
Lempang. Kira nimbun dulu, nimbun. Ada batu ini, biar nggak terlalu dalam. Nimbun lubangnya.
That's good news. A truck is carrying enough stone to fill the rut. 3 hours later, the drivers are ready to try their luck.
Go.
Ya capek lah. Udah lapar.
One last push, and the lights of Labura are finally in sight. It's 11 p.m., and it's taken them 12 hours to cover 85 kilometers.
Kita udah sampai tujuan dengan selamat. Tuhan memberkati. God bless.
It's hard to tell if God has anything to do with it. Either way, on the railway line to the mine, prayers abound, although they're not necessarily answered.
Wah, ambil gol. Kalau molek nih ada nih. Supaya ke belakang dulu. Kau coba ya, Manjoyo. Biar situ itu. Terus.
The gates to the Lebong Tandai mine are finally open. All in all, it took them over 10 hours to cover only 35 kilometers. Suffering and taking risks in pursuit of one dream. The 200 people who live in the mine all have the same one: to become rich. A beautiful utopia that will surely never come true. The Dutch, who started mining in the 1900s, followed by the Australians, left nothing but crumbs.
Perusahaan besar kan main tahun ya, dia punya penghasilan. Kalau masyarakat ini kan sudah mengambil nafkah, cari nafkah tuh untuk membeli beras, ngambil cepat. Jadi banyaknya dia mungkin bisa hasil dari bisa kebun, supaya punya produksi.
Like the bridges on the railroad, their equipment threatens to break at any moment. Here, the gold is hidden in the rock, which makes the work harder. Every flake is hard-earned.
Ini batu emas, ada emasnya ada. Jadi emasnya ini ada, cuman besar enggak. Nanti untuk makanan ini besar, jadi.
The mines are almost running dry, but in other regions they are working at full steam. Indonesia is affected by the curse of natural resources. It has just added to a long list the world's largest reserve of nickel, a metal indispensable for manufacturing car batteries. This new rush is rapidly increasing deforestation, in addition to that caused by palm oil, tin mining and logging. The scale of the damage is enormous, but there is a glimpse of hope. Indonesia is beginning to realize that it is endangering the planet's second largest area of biodiversity after Brazil.